because talking or listening to me talk for an hour is probably like not good for your mental health. So we brought in some great people to come in and join in on the conversation. Starting off, we got the one, the only, the not so stinky Gigatron. Gigatron, how are you?
Good man, how you doing? It's a little
You know,
jarring there.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Jarring the transition there, or the transition of maybe listening to you for an hour. Uh,
I
only.
if only. We're gonna go where no man has gone before. Listening to me ramble. It's gonna be great.
Of course.
All right, Gigatron, I have to ask you. I have to
Sure.
ask you because you're somewhat experienced. You've had plenty of time in in League of Legends and just in esports in general. Do you have like a favorite moment from your past that like really resonates with you? Like this is esports at its peak for you, Gigatron. What would that be?
So, unfortunately, it's not going to be in any of the leagues that I've been casting in lately, but it would be probably. Uh, Unfortunately, I had to go back to my boys at Redbirds. I have to say it's probably when I wasn't casting the game or anything because this was with Unified, but it was when they won the first split of like we just banded together a bunch of like masters, grandmasters, challenger players, and the fact that they came through with undefeated season and then pretty much undefeated in the league. Yeah, it was pretty crazy with that on top of running it back and winning 2 more times in a row. So
There you
a whole
go.
full year just ISU just winning everything with it. It's great. But yeah, I think that's probably like my favorite moment in like the last couple of years is just seeing one a collegiate team achieve that. But two, just still be unfortunately dog in proving grounds. I
You
I will
know,
have to call on that. I will call on that slide in other podcasts. I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, unfortunately, they've been not having the best performances. But obviously, they weren't in this most recent one because it's summer. So looking to see how they do in fall. But TA's still been having a good showing. So I'll give them that.
you're holding out hope beyond hope
Yep.
for
Opium.
for for TA, the hopium. I was in
No
the
dreadium.
hopium. No dreadium. I got the believium, the hopium, and the copium yesterday at Amateur Worlds, but we'll talk about that later. We got the one, the only, the not so fattening diet tea. It's Deity. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Moose?
I'm doing well. Um, it's been a great week. We got Emma in here as well. And Deity, what makes Emma so great of a content manager?
Hmm. I think when Emma actually takes a shower, I think her like skills as a content creator and a producer are amazing. Like she has a lot of experience coming from like the Lotus League, and she has a lot of experience just working with a lot of casters. Makes her great.
Absolutely. I think Emma's great. And shout out to Emma as well. She is there behind the scenes, making sure that everything is running smoothly for us, and is probably really mad at me for my intro. It was actually
A little
pretty bad.
bit.
It was actually pretty bad. I don't know what came over me. But yeah. No, I think that Emma is great. I think that you're great. I'm glad to see you here once again. You have a ton of knowledge about TA in general and just about League, and you have a good mindset about the game. So I really do respect you, and I'm very excited to be able to get to pick your brain a little bit more.
Mhm.
And that's what's up. And so with that being said, we've got a special guest. We've got the headmaster of Runeterra Academy, now Legends of Runeterra, he has been looking to be able to just make that happen, and he is one of the best when it comes to the amateur scene. It's Headmaster Red. Red, what's up?
How's it going, guys? Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, especially with a group of like all my favorite people. Moose has been killing it in the casting game. I worked with Gigatron for a long time. I don't know Emma. I'm sorry, Emma. And then and then of course the one, the only Diet T.
Oh my god.
That I purposely try to convince all of my casters to mispronounce because it kills me. It makes me
It's
laugh.
true. It's true. Even people like all my friends call my name wrong on purpose in the Twitch chat as well, just to piss me off.
Love it. Everyone's always like, "How do you pronounce this name?" And I always say Diet T. And they always like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," and then they just roll with it.
You know, that's been one of my the greatest joys and challenges of being an amateur shoutcaster has been all of these silly names that people come up with, and sometimes I don't realize what they're trying to say and like what their name actually means.
It's
And
okay. You
so,
could just say they have terrible. Like there's some real dog shit names. Like we could just be honest.
oh
like some
Scam
really
Master
bad
Red
names.
out here, dude.
no, so my worst one was it was, I believe, in I don't know if it was when I was doing Runeterra Academy, but it was a like a decently important match. It was like a semifinals match, and the guy's name was Yorick Hunt. And I didn't realize what it actually was. And I'm sure you guys can figure it out now. And I was saying it the entire day. It was so bad.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a little cringe, man. That's a little cringe.
Ah.
I mean, if it's really bad when you look at it, kind of a thing, you can kind of tell sometimes. I mean, that was a little sneaky, I guess, but still, it's just there's certain ones. I mean, add that booty. I mean, that's always a fun one. I can't not never say that, kind of a thing. But it was pretty crazy when I had to not.
Come on.
I think once. I think it was once in RA. I had to not say the name because my co-caster didn't want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fine. It happens. You gotta have to work with your casters to see what's kind of the comfort too.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to tell players like, hey, like if you don't change your name, like I'll buy your name change for you, but I cannot put you on stream like if this guy doesn't change his name. Because there's some like really bad names out there that I don't want casters saying. But that's just the league scene, right? You got a lot of degens, so
Yeah.
bound to happen.
Like Deity. Like
Of course, yep.
yeah, I mean, one of the worst names that I had to try to figure out. I didn't realize it at first when I first like joined the TA server. I didn't realize that Deity was Deity, and so I would come in and I'd be like, "What's up, Deity?" And then he had to
I just not
participate.
talk to you like the whole time. Every single chat we're in. You just like call me Deity, I'm just sick of it, bro. Like oof.
Listen, I stand by my choices. I stand by my decisions. And now I know. And that's growth and learning and experiences
Uh-huh.
for sure. Um Red, I gotta ask you because you were running Runeterra Academy, and I thought, like, as a shoutcaster, I thought that Runeterra Academy's data logs are some of the best in the amateur scene. Like, I don't know
Well,
who came up with that. It was phenomenal.
let's be honest, it was the best in the amateur scene. We don't have to beat around the bush. There's a lot of things that RA did that was just the best. You could say it, like no one will get offended here. But it was it was. I mean, all the data logging was by me.
Yep.
So, like a lot of the stuff I went through RA. RA was mostly a two-person thing. It was just me and PVS. PVS handled production, and I handled everything else. So,
Yeah, I
But,
mean, like, Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I appreciate the kind words. That's all I was gonna say.
Mm-hmm. Gigatron, did you ever cast for Runeterra?
Yes.
Good for years.
For years? Your
Yeah.
years? What did you enjoy about Runeterra Academy? Like, what did you really? What made you want to come back?
I think it was always just the culture. Like Red was always welcoming. Red was always someone that like took care of production with PVS, and the fact that it always just was like if there was ever a problem, you could usually get a hold of them like pretty quickly if there was like ever an issue like of like rule book or anything like that. It was always something that I think from like an overarching standpoint, that's why I always came back was like the league was always structured well. Everything that we wanted was there. You had again, your stats were always great. You were always someone that excuse me, got through and did that very quick and easy. Where I always see like some others take a little bit longer. I guess sometimes they have a little bit more different stats that they look at now, but it's one of those things that I always have liked, and this is why I'm so glad you're in the scene, man. I mean, this even though you're kind of transitioning more to Legends of Runeterra than League, I think going forward after Amateur Worlds maybe, but this is something that I mean, you still have to look at. You were able to pull together all these people to make Amateur Worlds too. Like this is crazy to think about.
Yeah. Is that the topic we're gonna move on to? Because I got a lot to say about Amateur Worlds.
We
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, that I'd love to hear your take because I'm casting gold. Deity was there.
I was playing in it, yes.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there for like too long, but yeah, he was there.
All right.
I mean, he did die a lot.
I died a
You
little
got
less than others.
tea, man.
I mean, I got a question. How good a team it was when the first thing you say is like, "Oh well, I didn't die as much as my my fucking other player." Like, what is that about, dude? You just throw him under the bus?
Nah, I didn't even say who it was. What are you talking about, my boy? Like,
You said your top lane died like 19 times in 2 games or something like that.
all right, bro. Like, I didn't say that
You
on the podcast, okay? Like, that was like meant to be behind closed doors. Come on, dude.
Okay.
Oh, it's out of the open now. It's out of the open now. We are
I'm about to
not.
get some angry DMs.
I say just banter.
No way. No
That's fine.
way.
It's fine.
Deity, he says in the pre-show, we were talking a little bit. He says, "I like stirring the pot. I like building the banter." So come on, put your diet where your tea is.
Dude,
I like
I
that.
changed my profile picture to a fucking diet tea, alright? Just look at it. Let me know.
Right. So like if you guys have
Have you?
questions about worlds, like just ask them, and I'm like literally an open book. Anybody who knows me, like if you ask me anything in a VC, I will literally tell you what my unfiltered thoughts are. So
True.
do you
All right,
guys
I got
have
a question
questions
for
about
you.
worlds? Yeah, sure. What's up?
Oh, so how bad do you think like smurfing is in these amateur leagues, especially in like gold and plat and IBS, where worlds is like focused on?
So we made a conscious decision from the beginning that like worlds would not care too much about that stuff, because we really put the onus on the leagues to do the vetting at that point. And they had a whole season to vet these teams, and if they couldn't catch a Smurf at any time, but during that season, then it kind of falls on them, right? And we would absorb none of the blame. It's nice from our perspective because as an invitational, we can kind of do that kind of stuff, because we have no obligation to vet these players because it's an invitational. It's not a league. That being said, we did vet like e-subs and stuff like that, but other than that, the players that came in from championship teams, we didn't vet them at all. And in regards to smurfing, I think there are always Smurfs on championships teams. I wouldn't say 100% of them, but I would say about 50 or 40% of them. And I could pin which leagues they come from, because some leagues just do worse jobs at Smurf vetting than others, and everybody knows that. I would say the big problem with like players would be the fact that there's just a ton of elo sitters, and the leagues don't do enough to combat that. Uh, you can either go with the perspective is that you accept elo sitters and you allow them to climb, or you just put these hard and fast rules that say you can't go past a certain elo, and it promotes elo sitting. And yeah, it's just a bad culture for elo sitting. I think there are some things that certain leagues have done to remedy that, and it's starting to spread, especially because amateur leagues TOs are talking more and more these days, which is nice to see. Um, but it's still a big problem, especially in like lower elos like iron, bronze, silver. I mean, almost every player in IBS Worlds is an elo sitter. They should probably all be gold.
Oof.
Yuck. I mean, in terms of like your opinion, like it's your opinion, man. I was watching a Jeff Bridges interview, so I have Big Lebowski in my mind.
Hmm.
But what in your opinion, do you think that there's an amateur organization that does like check and does like implement these rules well within the amateur scene, specifically in like the gold IBS realm?
Talking about leagues or teams?
I'm talking about leagues, like the different amateur leagues. Like, we have eight different tournaments from in Gold Worlds that are
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
through. Yeah, like
So I
is
mean,
there
like, so I can go through like each league real quick. So like RA, the attitude was more like, um, we kind of filtered elo sitters out by allowing them to climb pretty high during the season. Um, but the reality is like there's probably a good chunk of elo sitters. If you're gonna ask me like what I thought about CBE Ibiza, yeah, there's an elo sitter or two on that team, but it was kind of
Or
just like,
5.
yeah. Okay, dude,
No,
relax.
not Kobita. It's fine. Not Kobita.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, but it becomes like from a league perspective, you have to either like you have to either kind of put in arbitrary criteria to determine what an elo sitter is, or you have to just follow the rules that you put in the rule book. And from RA's perspective is we just follow the rules what's in the rule book. If a player qualifies under those rules, then they qualify. Um, and like Aegis does a good job because they have the yeet clause. I mean, it needs fine tuning, but they have their own ways of combating elo sitters. Ours and I believe BOL's is like pretty good in the fact that uh, you just kind of let them climb pretty high, and so there's no incentive to elo sit. And then I think ZGG kind of does the same thing. But yeah, I know Risen has like hard and fast rules, and they don't really have elo sitters because they don't. How do I say it? They don't like appeal to the same player base that a lot of these other leagues do. They have their own kind of player base. Um,
The Reddit player base.
yeah, and so
well,
like they're a lot more strict on like elo climbing and stuff like that. But it kind of works for them because honestly, like the team that came out of Risen, they were good, but I wouldn't say any of them were elo sitters, and they really couldn't match any of the other teams in Worlds.
Yeah, they were definitely
Oh.
gold.
Yeah, they were definitely a gold team. They're probably like a pure gold team. If I put all the elo sitters in their prospective elos and I cut it off, so like you can only bring gold players, they probably were the best gold team there. Problem is it wasn't just a gold amateur worlds, quote unquote, right? There's
mhm.
plat players there. So yeah, I would say like the best leagues that do it are AGL, EOL, DGG does a decent job. Uh, and then I would say like Risen, but it's I don't know, like Risen's like its own thing. It's hard to compare it to these other leagues.
I think I definitely agree with that sentiment in terms of Kitchen, the Risen representative. Right, the
Good
Kitchen was
guys too.
yeah,
I like the kitchen guys. They're very kind and very fun.
they
Uh,
were really great, and I think that overall the games that we got in gold, especially in Group A, because that was the league that I casted. I thought that every single one of the games that were casted, it felt like it could go either way. It wasn't like one-sided. It didn't feel like there was anybody that was smurfing, especially on Mint Gaming Rocky Road today, like or yesterday. Oh my god. Um 3
Yeah.
losses in a row after going 3-0, like that was such a moment to just reflect on how pendulumy, how back and forth a team could be from one day to another because it was just insane. I came in expecting that they were going to dominate. I thought that they were going to go 6-0 and they end up being second seed and 3-3. It was just such a disaster for day two. But it was definitely fun to see their backs against the wall, and it was really great to see Kitchen step up their game. And they eliminated one of the other teams. They eliminated TD Aftermath because they beat
Mhm.
them in that spot. It didn't matter that they beat Mint Gaming because everyone beat Mint Gaming. The fact that they were able to beat TD Aftermath, I mean, shows that they weren't the weakest team in that group, in my opinion, and they showed it with their performance in the 2 games that we cast for them against Mint Gaming.
I'll also say the the teams that I felt had Smurfs, because like I said, we took like a more of a third party perspective. If there were Smurfs, we weren't gonna like hard vet them because we felt like that was the league's job to do so. The teams that I felt like had Smurfs or probably were too good for the Elo bracket that they were in, all kind of took care of themselves in different ways. Like I don't know TD Supernova's roster that well from IBS. I don't know all the players, but that team felt weird to have in IBS because they kind of just destroyed everyone. And it was like, okay, well, I think there's probably a Smurf on this team or two. And then they bowed out because they had scheduling conflicts. So that worked out. And then uh Rising Tide Seagulls, it felt that team felt really weird to see, right? Because it was like
Mm-hmm.
two of the players were like past diamond, uh, and uh, then we found out that one of their player was a Smurf, and then he got comp ruled, and then they got eliminated from the tournament. So like all the teams that I felt like kind of uncomfortable about like having in Worlds kind of took care of themselves. So I'm happy with how it is right now. I think Plat is going to be such a banger. I mean, the teams that are there in the Plat Amateur Worlds, jeez Louise, it's going to be so sick. I'm so hyped. Like
Essentially, they're like mid-tier diamond teams at this point. Like,
yeah, these are, I mean, like you want to talk about elo sitters. There's a ton of elo sitters. But the thing is it feels a lot more fair because there's elo sitters on every team. So like, or like suspected elo sitters, right? Like, so it's fun. I think it'll be awesome to watch.
it's not elo sitting when like 4 players on a team are diamond 3, like 55% win rate. Like at this point, it's just a diamond league, dude.
At this point, you're just bad because you're not climbing. I mean, and that has to be the reason why. I don't know because I've never been diamond. So I mean,
So you
I
don't want to be. It's not
I don't
fun.
want to be. I don't want to be diamond. I'm diamond in TFT. Does that count?
Ooh, okay.
I think
Yeah.
that does count. Yeah.
Yeah.
That should
Okay.
You
count.
Okay.
get some
Yeah.
brownie points for that for sure.
Cool. I'll take my brownie points and I'll eat them too. Uh, Gigatron. Do you think that you could spot a Smurf in a crowd?
Essentially, because I mean, especially even with working with like Runeterra and a couple other leagues, like I've seen just certain names pop up where like when you're looking at that, you're like, okay, you see the champs, and then the fact that you also require them to share all their accounts, and if they don't, and you find it out, because I mean it's simple. People are unfortunately dumb and like post stuff on Twitter or on their social media or anything, and then they get spotted out that way, kind of thing, because they're like, oh, like I did so well, and then now you're in diamond, and when you're playing in a gold league, and you're like, what the hell? Like, you shouldn't be here, kind
Oh
of
yeah,
thing.
you
So
should read. I think if you really want to see like how
you can show them like
yeah,
how
yeah.
you found
If you
them.
want to see like some of the more interesting ways like teams have been caught, I would suggest you like read some of the RA comp rulings and the Risen comp rulings.
Oh boy, the
Riz-
RA comp rulings.
Risen has some good comp rulings, and we learned some of our tricks from them. And yeah,
True.
RA is like RA. We were like Risen is also like kind of secretive, but we were with RA. We always were like, this is exactly what happened, and here's the steps that we got to finding this, and then like this is the evidence, and we would publish it, and we actually got a lot of flack from that from other TOs. But like
Detective Red, dude.
you're always like, I mean, this is people should know, like this is what people should know. Yeah, I
Red-
mean, like
Red's gonna quit. Red's gonna quit being a League TO, and he's gonna become a private investigator.
Yeah,
It'd be
true.
great. And then you could be investigator Red.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
There you go.
I don't know, like it's one of the things that is so good about me getting out of the league scene, and also the way I set up Amateur Worlds is that I don't have to vet players anymore, because I don't do anything with the elo cap anymore.
Mhm.
And you don't do anything with the elo cap anymore, you just don't have to worry about that stuff. People just show up and play, right? And that's a lot of the cringe stuff that comes from the League of Legends scene, and it's it's only in like really the League of Legends scene, because there's no other game that's kind of like that, where like there's hard like people could say like there's enough skill disparity between this gold and plat that they should have different elo brackets, et cetera, et cetera. Like Valorant isn't treated like that. Like CS:GO and Dota aren't treated like that. It's literally only League of Legends that's treated like that. Everything else is uncapped, and it's good in the sense that again it gives everyone a place to play. But it's bad in the sense that like everyone just fucking cheats, and like like you're gonna get caught. Like everybody cheats. Like every teamwork cheats is what I mean to say. Like, and it's not always like coming from the top, but it's like some player who thinks he could get sneaky by recommending his friend who's on a plat account or something like that. And like yeah, it's just almost all of them always get caught, and that's like eventually. So that is the good thing, but it is something that's symptomatic of only League of Legends, and I'm kind of happy that I'm out of that space. So
Yeah, and I think that kind of like before we get into, because I know we want to talk about MSI, and like there's so much that we could talk about when it comes to Amateur Worlds, but I think at least for me, and I think for a lot of the the amateur talent that's out there that has stayed with the scene, like what it is, do you consider Amateur Worlds like a farewell, or is it a break from League? Like, do you have your idea of like what's your 5-year plan, I guess, within these scenes?
well, I mean, in these scenes, is in like the different like each esport, or like what do you mean?
Well, like, I mean, you were talking about how you're going into Legends of Runeterra, and you're talking about kind of you're kind of sounding like you're kind of signing off of doing League of Legends content. Is that accurate, or is this kind of like a break for you? Or I don't know. I guess I'm asking, is this like your one of your like last projects for League of Legends, or are you going to come back to it in the future?
So, my job when I signed on to Aegis was to be. I'll read my title out. Hold on, let me find it. It's quite long.
It's illustrious, long, and great.
Head of new esports development. So, obviously we went into Legends of Runeterra last year. We're number one in the space. We have like 400 of the top players in AM and EU playing for us every week. And we partnered with Riot recently for their Road to Seasonals event, so we're really big in that space. I like to say that we're number one. I don't have any hard facts or numbers, but I like to say it. It just feels that way. And then in TFT, it's kind of the same thing. We're basically number one in that space too. We put on 256 to 512 people tournaments all the time. We have the top players in the world playing in our TFT. It's easier to do in TFT because of the nature of the game, right? You don't have to pay anything. It's a little different in LOR, but still people make it work. And yeah, so like my job is to take the things that we already are successful at, homogenize it across the esports. We already have like I kind of built like this how would I say, like template to kind of get into an esports scene and then grow big kind of quickly. And we're going to use that for other esports, and that's what my job is to expand into those other esports using that template, which will start happening in July. We'll start getting into more esports, but for League of Legends, there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to do with the scene. I feel like it was missing. We did the in-house server. It was just a mess because we were kind of just handed this pile of dog shit, and we were like, yeah, just try to make this work. We tried, and then now we kind of have to wait on Riot to fix some things up, but eventually we'll get back to that. And then I wanted to do Amateur Worlds because people said, you just can't do Amateur Worlds. We did it 3 years ago. It didn't work, and we can't do it anymore. I was just like, yeah, that's kind of BS. We can do anything we really want to. We just have to try. And that's kind of what the only project is I have with League right now is Amateur Worlds. It's the only thing I want to do because it's very simple to do. And yeah, I mean, like, I do miss League. I mean, I started in League about 8 years ago. So there are some aspects of League of Legends that I miss. I don't want to run a league. That's, I mean, vetting. I think something like Aegis has 100 teams this season, something like that.
120, yeah.
Yeah. And RA had 96 last season, and I was just like, 96 is a lot of teams, and Aegis has 120, and I do not want to micromanage all those teams. That's not something I want to do. So yeah, that's why I kind of like this. This Amateur Worlds thing, so I could stay in the space without staying in the space, and then I can like dunk on teams that I've known for a while. Like Senigma didn't make Worlds, TA didn't make Worlds. So it's
Hey
fun
man, you
to
predicted
like.
us to win. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I did, and then you didn't do it, so it's pretty sad.
Savage.
I mean,
Feels bad,
speaking of Worlds, this was a busy week for you, Red. We had IBS Gold and Platinum is going to be tonight. You were talking kind of a little bit about IBS a little previously. Did any shocks or any surprises from the IBS semis was this week, correct? That you were surprised about?
I was surprised that the lower bracket match, the match number 2 between TD Shadow and TDR Junior, was as close as it was, and it went 5 games. Like TD Shadow needed like 3 Baron steals, and to end up winning that series 3-2. That was fun, and that was shocking. But the top match where it was like Coachless Tyranny, they just like kind of rolled the enemy team. That wasn't surprising. So I think it'll be interesting to see how these two teams match up, Coachless Tyranny and TD Shadow. Because Coachless Tyranny is kind of a team that like loses one game and then stomps you for 3 others. And TD Shadow is like a very scrappy, hangs in with you the whole time kind of team. So it'd be interesting to see how these like teams match up, especially because TD Shadow was a 2nd seed. They weren't a champion.
Correct.
The champion from RA, because RA ended first out of all of the Worlds teams. They ended like a month before Worlds started, and champion from RA kind of just like they just weren't like up to form. They were like missing players. They hadn't practiced as much. If they were like on form, I think they would have rolled this tournament. The fact that they couldn't keep it together for a month, and then TD Shadow, the 2nd seed, was able to keep it together for a month and end up going to finals is like pretty impressive. So I'm excited to see if they can like finish off the whole thing. Because I mean I'm supposed to be not biased, but of course I'm rooting for all the RA teams to win.
Oh, of course.
So,
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
Red, I think a big problem with Ibiza was the fact that their players split because Ibiza won like 2 or 3 leagues or something. I think they won 3. So like some of the teammates from RA Ibiza went to BOL Ibiza, so they weren't really able to be on form because they need new players, right? I think that's the reason why they're not doing as well as they could be.
well, I was talking about Big Duck Entourage for
Yeah,
IBS.
we're doing IBS. So
For
yeah.
gold, they're doing
BDE,
fine,
yeah.
bro. I mean, like, yeah, they split players, but both CB teams, Ibiza and Azebi, which is Ibiza backwards, which is Ibiza backwards. They're both first seeds coming out of their group, so I think even though they had the most time off, Ibiza didn't really have any time off because they were playing all the way up until like Worlds. They were in multiple leagues, so I mean, I don't think there's going to be any drop off. And, I mean, it's a little early to talk about Gold Worlds, but I'll just go ahead and say, it's going to be CB finals. And it's going to be sick.
You
No
think of
way.
both? You think of
No
both?
way.
I
Yeah.
think if Mint Rocky gets Sybil back mid, they might just win. You know? We'll see.
Mint Rocky almost didn't even make it, dude. I mean, I guess we're talking about Gold Worlds now, but like Mint Rocky went 0-3. It started off 3-0, went 0-3 just to give Kitchen some hope. Went into the tiebreaker, and then I mean that game was good for like 20 minutes, right? Moose?
Yeah.
And then like it got out of control like pretty quickly.
It was, oh my god. The whole storyline of Rocky Road yesterday was just insane. The first 3 games, right? The first 3 games that Rocky Road had, it was all Hextech Souls, and they all lost. All 3 of the games, they tried to go for an aggressive jungle play that ended up blowing up in their face. Like all 3 games ended up blowing up in their face, which meant that their opponent was able to get the first 2 Drakes. It ended up being a Hextech Rift and Hextech Soul, so you know how that escalates and snowballs the game even further. They give away Hextech Soul in all 3 of those games. And despite that, they bring it almost back in every single one of them. They have these amazing team fights, but they just dropped the ball in the early game. It was absolutely insane. And then they go into their last game, and they first pick their red side, but they first pick MF into Senna. Like it's Senna TK into MF, and I'm just thinking, like, what the hell? What the frick is this team doing? I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like on the hopium like hookah the entire time, saying this is just a fluke. You're over exaggerating it. They're limit testing. I had all the excuses up for them, and then they lose 3 games, and I just was I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you, because I thought that they were front runners. I honestly think that they should be first seed, and it was going to be an easy road to the finals, but I guess not. So I'm really excited to see what next week has in store.
Yeah, and I am a little perturbed by our friends over at CB Ibiza because they denied us 4-way tie in Group A.
How dare they?
Right at the
How dare-
last game too. Right at the last game, I was like, "Oh, dude!" So like the tiebreaker rules kind of like come down to like fastest average game win time is how you get seeded. So if all 4 had tied, we would have made basically a small bracket, a 4-person bracket, and then we would have seeded them based on the average game win time. So I'm like going through all the games, calculating win times, writing them all down and stuff like that. And then like as I finish up, CBB is like, "Oh yeah, we beat TD Aftermath, so there's no 4-way tiebreaker." And I'm like, "Ah, dude, that's so
FF, bro.
heartbreaking." Especially because it was so out of reach. It was like a 1% chance of happening before day 1. I mean, like after day 1, because MGRR was 3-0. Well, the only way we'd get a 4-way tiebreaker is if they go 0-3. and then they did. And so like it was fun. I kind of wish we did get the 4-way tiebreaker, even with as stressful as it would have been. But I know casters and the teams would have been so annoyed having to play 2 more games. I think they're much more happy with like just having to play the 1 game. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been really tough because Rocky Road, like they made it clear after that third game, they were like, hey, like I don't know if we can continue to keep on going. They had like obligations, I guess, and so it ended up like it was really weird because they had to bring in their sub in for that last game, and that's the game that they ended up winning. So I mean,
right.
take that as you will. I mean, there were different correlations. They didn't lose the early game in that game. They didn't. It wasn't a Hextech Soul, so who knows actually what the reason was that they were able to win. But regardless of that, I think like and I'll say this now because you're here, Red, and as a caster from that standpoint, like it was 4 games for me
Hmm.
personally. Like I I am experienced and prepared to go the 5 game distance. I think that is you got to be able to expect that. You've got to be able to anticipate that. I just think that it might have started a little late with
Well, that's because the production, like, because it's not like a BO5, it's 3 BO1s. Right? So the
mm,
timing is different, right? There's more spacing and
Yep.
time between a BO1 than it is for like a BO5, because what you do is the game ends, and you go to break, and you come back, and then you talk about the next game. Like in the BO1s, because the teams change, there's a lot more dynamics to like how the show goes. So it is longer than a traditional BO5 if it did go 5 games. But the
mhm.
thing is like made the announcement. We said, hey, play in your 3 games. If there's tiebreakers, you're gonna play them right after. It's just the reality. And if they didn't want to play them, they just take an FF. What it is, like, uh, unfortunate, but you should be prepared to play 5 games because you're gonna have to play 5 games next week. So
Right.
like I don't know, like that. I just didn't feel much sympathy for people who were like that. It's just like if this was like something we sprung on them, then I would understand. Like it was like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna play tiebreakers tonight. No, they had known for a while. So like, yeah, you make your adjustments. There are some teams that have had questions about scheduling issues and stuff like that, and it's just like, okay, well, I mean, you knew the dates, you knew the format, you've known it for a couple months now, so if you didn't make preparations for those kinds of things, then I don't know, like, not much we can do for you, But that was kind of the attitude we had.
And it's understandable. I mean, if you really look at it, like you laid it out early, and you're always someone that lays it out usually early on. You have everything carved out, and even if there is a change, heaven forbid, throughout the season or anything like that, you make it still very well known ahead of time before those games. So this way, it's not like, okay, oh, day of, we're saying it, or like literally right after games. Like you're never gonna see that. You shouldn't be seeing that in leagues, to be honest. Like you should know, like, hey, if there is ever a tiebreaker, we're gonna have to play them right after, kind of a thing. Like, and just note, like, okay, I have to carve out this time. I mean, it's just common sense. Like, I just
Yeah,
don't. To me, it's common. I don't get why teams wouldn't do that kind of thing. So, but I know we have Plat coming up though. Any predictions that we kind of have for coming up with the league right now with that?
I don't
Platt.
think we
Oh,
need to
it's
call them plaid. We can just call them like diamond at this point. But
I do.
Sorry,
Oh my god.
I'm
Why did-
trying to be respectful. It's technically Plat Worlds, but you know what? Let's call it Masters at this point. Because that's what they're trying to get to.
I mean, like next season, it's still gonna be called Plat Worlds, but it'll be basically D4 Worlds. So, I mean,
True.
that won't change like too much. But in terms of like predictions, I think it's as good as these teams are, and as close it'll be. I still think there's one team that's so much better than every team in Plat. Like it's hard to just say that they won't win it all, and that's OMT Chronos. Like
Yeah.
that team is legit insane. I don't know how they keep getting like leagues are they call them elo sitters or what? It's hard to like look at their op.ggs and call them elo sitters because they all have negative win rates like 500 games or whatever. So it's like really hard to just say like yeah you should yeet them or whatever. And from like a TO perspective, it's literally impossible to yeet these teams because it's like you'd have to just come up with some BS to do it because they're always going to fit your criteria. That being said, they're legit insane, like so good. How can you beat this? They have the best jungler in plat, the best mid
Yeah.
laner in plat, and they have the
Yep.
best ADC in plat. Like it's really hard to beat this team. They've been playing together for like 2 years. Like I don't know, man. It's just look at them and you're like, how could you beat this team? If you look at their multi, you're just like, oh, they're unimpressive. But if you actually watch,
Below 50%, sure, that's fine. That can happen. But this is something that, I mean, Ego Bender. I mean, I recognize that name like right away. That always a really good mid laner, and the fact that you're going against some of these other ones. I like the names of these other teams, but you have to look at like the only other one I would be scared of is either Dorado or I'm gonna mess up the name, but it's Septive Nether Leviathan.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
a mouthful to say. I feel like those two are like potentially questionable teams you have to worry about, but I mean it is what it is.
I mean, Dorado here, I gotta rep them a little bit because I was watching them play and they're kind of crazy. I mean, we're talking about like the
Yeah, Dorodo's good, too.
OPGGs. They have like 4 diamonds, like Diamond 4 and Diamond 3 on their lineup. It's just and I gotta rep Flans. I know he's in plat, but if you guys have seen that guy play, he's like one of the most creative top laners I've ever seen on the scene. He's kind of crazy, and I'm excited to see where this team will go. I think Dorado will win like first or second in their group for sure.
I'm hearing all this copium right now, and it's giving me a headache. I'm hearing all of this. Oh, they're gonna be great, and now no one is safe. After what happened yesterday with Rocky Road, no one is safe, and I think that like I'm just gonna put this out there because I think that this is the greatest part of Amateur Worlds is that all of these teams are already champions, and now we get to see who actually is the best of the best. And so on paper, you might not look that menacing, but if you guys actually are able to perform as a team really, really well, and you guys can play together really, really well, then you can take it because you already know how to win in a best of 5 grand finals match because you've done it already. So I'm coming into Plat with the expectation that we are going to be seeing really strong fundamentals, amazing creativity from these teams, and honestly some just great games. I'm super excited. I couldn't tell you who I think is going to win.
Well, there is a caveat to what you said. You did say they're all champions. There is one team that's not a champion. That is the Leviathan team.
My boy
Wow.
Macro Beast.
Yeah, but they do have the infamous / famous Macro Beast on the team, and he's been talking a lot of shit, and his tweets are just straight bangers. So like I'm excited to see how it works out.
Aren't they like retweeted on Amateur Worlds
Yeah,
Twitter?
yeah, we try to retweet as many as we can because they're so funny. They're so stupid. But I mean, like he's got a lot of confidence, and I love it. So I'm excited to see how that works out. And to your point, Deity, about the OP.GGs, yeah, Dorado. What I was saying is that like OMT Chronos, look at their OP.GG, and none of them are diamond. They should be in diamond. That's what I'm saying. Like they still qualify for Plat League somehow, where a lot of these teams wouldn't anymore. So that's why they're kind of a terror in Plat. But I think there's a lot of good teams, and I agree that Dorado will come out first in their group more than likely. But that's just because they're not in the same group as OMTC and CB Rush. Honestly, CB Rush. I mean, I think this Worlds will be close, but I feel like I know who's getting out of groups for both sides. Just like right now, I could just.
Who do you
make a
think's better,
prediction.
CB Rush or Krenos?
I think CB
True.
it's obvious that OMT Kronos is better, and I think if in a best of 1, CB Rush can beat OMT Kronos, but in a best of 5, it wouldn't work out for them. And they played each other quite a few times because they both were RA teams, and they, Acid has played on both of those teams, both CB Rush and OMTC. And I think he would say that OMTC is a better team. So,
Well, that's the team he chose to play on for Worlds, so I'd imagine that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a side in Gold once upon a time. That was a while back. Back when I was like Silver 3 in the dregs of Focus Propel. Those are the days, dude. I was still playing on a trackpad back then.
Focus.
God, you're toxic. You're not even in a banner chat, and you're being toxic.
Nah, bro, I was actually on a trackpad. I was like 16. I couldn't buy a mouse yet, bro. I was an Urgot one trick.
What's this mouse, dude? Come on.
It was 2016. Anything could happen. So
Yeah, I did win the league though.
Oh my god, no, you didn't win the league.
Yeah, I
Why?
did win the league.
You did it.
Yeah, I actually did. I won on Grin Eclipse. I still have the screenshot, bro.
Oh my god, Pix or GTFO?
Wait, look, you can go into Grin. I think the start all around gross incompetence. You can ask like, what's his name? Shoot, he used to be really big in the scene. I think he sold Focus.
I can vouch because there was a point in time where in RA people were like, for the Gold League, people were like, hey, this guy won a Plat League before, and a lot of names got thrown around of players that have won Plat Leagues that were playing in Gold. I'm pretty sure his name was thrown in there, so I wouldn't be surprised because I mean they're all dirty. All the Gold players are just dirty elo sitters, right? So
Hey man, I'm Plat. Okay, you can't call me an elo sitter.
Deity is, I don't know. I'm considering that you are a former champion now, and seeing your recent performances.
Clearly didn't have enough diet brisk. That's what it is.
What's the copy pasta deity that everyone posts in Gold Worlds? Oh,
There's so many. Which one are you talking about?
We got deity. We got beat by 3 elo sitters, a pretty good support, and a boosted dog.
Dude, that was so good. Oh my god.
That's what deity is like copium like posting right now. I'm sure. Like,
Alright, wait, hold on. Let me go and banter. Rep banter right now, bro. It's in there. We got beat by 3 elo sitters, a pretty good support, and boosted dog without a muscle, dude. I think we did well throughout the split, and then 2 out of 3 of those games, despite throwing both.
That's so stupid. But
yeah, I beat 3-0, 3-1 in finals. I wanted the 3-0 against 3-0, but it just couldn't happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, in Focus.
No, in BOL. That's when I beat Waka in BOL finals. So, that's the weakest link Waka meme, dude. That's where I came from.
One other thing I want to touch on for Worlds. I don't know if we want to move on from Worlds or whatever, but I see you have this Dragon Rift tally for MSI. The interesting thing, if we were going to do the same thing for Worlds, I think it would be about 80 Hextech rifts and 1 of each of the other rifts, because every time on stream it's a Hextech rift. It's insane.
It was ridiculous. 3 in a row for Group A yesterday, and I always ask what the prediction is, and for some reason I don't get it. Like, I don't get why Hextech is so prevalent right now. It is insane. Like they say, oh, it's a 20% chance. It's all even. Like,
Opium.
it's not even. There's no way. There's no way. There's like a luck boost on Hextechs.
I mean, I'm sorry, you don't want to go portal around 5-man and go gang up on someone, as I was about to say another word. Oh, like, come on, you don't want to do that. Like, even without having soul, like, you don't want to just use the hex gates and just get around easier. Get to the point of like, oh hey, you're gonna try to take Baron. Nah, we're right here. We can get behind and then just collapse in, kind of a thing. It's something that I feel like a lot of teams either love or hate. But the fact that you're getting it that much is just insane. I mean, I think what wasn't it? Infernal was the other one we had, Moose, where it was always like Infernal for our one league that we were doing.
Bro, it all depends on who my co-caster is. I
True.
feel like whenever I cast with Turk, it is always Mountain Rifts. It's always Mountain Rifts. I've yet to see a different rift with him. I usually, like, before this split, before Worlds, I was always seeing Cloud Rifts, like always, always, always. And now it just feels like Hextech all the time. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's the copium in me, but regardless, MSI did complete. The NA copium has worn off. I do have the Dragon Tally, the final Dragon Tally after the great best of 5 that we had between RNG and T1. Hextech was the most prominent rift at MSI with 21. Cloud was second at 17, and then 14, 13, and 12 for Infernal, Mountain, and Ocean, respectfully, or respect. Yeah, that word, respect. But I do think that it is a very interesting correlation that the two rifts that can help people move around the map faster in the jungle, or just with the hex gates, are the ones that are most prevalent, because the games did feel like they were a lot more snowbally than they could have been had it been maybe a mountain rift or an ocean rift.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it too, it's like I like having more Hextech because again, you're seeing more of this new Drake that you haven't really seen until, like, obviously this season, and the fact that, I mean, unfortunately the flop of our good old Chemtech, but the fact, and we're not going to talk anymore on it because we were talking about it last time. I'm not going into Chemtech anymore.
Tech Dragon.
But yeah, it's definitely something that I think even with the movement ones, it's good to have. I mean, I'm very more lenient at where I want to go towards like Infernal or Ocean, just because like Ocean can snowball a team too. Like, you could be behind so bad, get all the Drakes, and then now even if you're someone that has like just a slight amount of sustain, it's great and it works well. Maybe not as much with current patch, but durability update. That's great. We'll get to that at that point. But that's something that I look at still. Like, you see that, unfortunately, yeah, NA doesn't get out. Same thing with, unfortunately, West just doesn't do well in MSI. Like, we get there, but that's it. we get to like quarters always, and then and like semis, and then after that we're done.
I think that
Mhm.
I actually am quite happy with what EG was able to do. I think
Sure.
that they performed well. I think that they showed that they can beat these the best of the best teams. And after seeing their games, I think that NA sent the best team, objectively speaking, to MSI this split.
Now where my Team Liquid fanboys at? Team Liquid all the way, dude. My boy Beardson in the mid lane? Come on. That zillion action at Worlds could have been something too.
It could have been something, but I think that EG took the experience and really made something out of it. Whereas maybe if you had those experienced players like Bjergsen there, maybe they wouldn't have had that same growth that EG had.
Yeah,
That is true.
I look at EG too. Like there's something that I look at. They've grown very well overall, just like TL. Like TL with roster changes is always performing good. The only issue that I look at is like you do have a really stacked EG team right now. Like even across the board, like EG's been putting out, dare I say it, really good teams in like the three divisions right now, where I feel very comfortable with them. And I look at that we could see more of these players get moved up onto other teams. Like I look at what you have Danny and JoJo being moved up and performing well. You still have Impact, who unfortunately didn't have probably a fun time, at the MSI, but it still was able to still feel comfortable with a lot of the game, and that's where I had to look at. Yeah, I mean, even though you get 3-0'd in the end, like you're still playing against a really good team. You get that experience, so this way now you have some slight showing there. Whereas, like, if you've never been to MSI, you've never been to Worlds or anything, you don't get that prep time and like that little bit of experience, other than just okay, you're grinding out solo queue, in Korea. You're grinding out all these scrim games, and then if you're not able to really learn from it, kind of a thing in the long run, like I don't expect like NA teams to win an MSI. Like I look at like, hey, as long as you get to quarter semis, you're doing good. You're better than obviously the other teams you should be better than, but RG is just a stacked team. Like
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. I come into every MSI thinking that the NA team will win.
The
and
NA
that's fine.
dream.
You're entitled to your NA dream wrong opinion. I mean, it's okay.
Well, why not? Why not NA? Why not an NA team win?
I think that's where, because you're in the aspect of putting in all these different players from regions, you don't get like the experience like you want to have. Like if these guys were able to eventually just take time, I mean, I know they do, but if they were able to take time and actually get more experience, more time on those Korean servers against those Korean scrim teams or China teams or whoever it's going to be, essentially, in the long run that you're going to have to fight. It's something that if you don't really have enough of that experience, I just don't expect like that to happen. Like even if you look at Impact, who's been on teams that go to Worlds or MSI, that's fine. Like, you have some veteran players that can handle that, but when you look at, you still have fresh people. I always, unfortunate, this is a fortunate thing I do. I go with no hope, because it's kind of like when you go to the movies, when you get spoiled a lot of things ahead of time with trailers and everything. You want to not watch trailers, because then you can enjoy everything in the awe and the aspect of when it happens. Like me, I was happy that they got to this point, and we're going to go against RNG. I just knew, I'm like, RNG's a good team, man. Like, they've been solid. I've watched RNG live in person between Worlds as well as going overseas, kind of a thing. So that's something that I look at. They're just, unfortunately, a really good team, and when you get stacked against them, I mean, it would have been nice to see them against SKT. That would have been, I think, really good. Where it kind of gives them that showing of like, okay, here's how you deal with Faker, kind of a thing. Like, you're not gonna learn it right away, but it's something that, when you have that matchup again, you can try to, perform better. That's all. Is what I just look at. So, but overall, like, West did okay. We knew it was going to be a SKT RNG, and you know what? I'm still happy with the outcome.
Fair
I
enough.
think G2, I was
Mhm.
expecting a better showing, but then they just got rolled in semis versus T1. Like, it was a 3-0 stomp, I feel like.
Well, it's the G2 curse. It's like it's like the what was the good old team curse in TL, curse of being always in fourth place kind of a thing. That's kind of like their curse for MSI is always like they do well or they get up to that point and then they just kind of flop. And I don't know if it's just a good old Ocelot meme or what exactly that just kind of curses them, but it's unfortunate. I mean, I like G2 as a team too. Like they're one that I would love to see in person, but it's just one of those ones too that unfortunately they're a very, I hate saying it, a coin flipping team.
You don't hate saying it. That's not a dirty word, Gigatron.
I'm not saying I hate it from a dirty aspect because I never hate saying dirty things. I hate saying it because I feel degrading like towards them and everything, and I feel like again they're always a really good setup team. The problem is I just feel like they never learn, kind of a thing. Like they never get to the point of like you look at like right now, like okay, you get 3-0'd and you get stomped. Like I was like, what are you gonna apply then in LEC that's gonna help out for making sure then again you go back to Worlds, you're gonna play against these teams again. Are you gonna perform? Or are you gonna flop again? That's the only problem that I kinda have with those. So I don't know.
I mean, I didn't mean that as like a shade or anything. I'm just
No.
I think
I
that
know.
I just wanted to I don't know, I wanted to make a joke. I wanted to be funny, but
You were
couldn't.
funny with it. I'm just re-explaining why.
I know,
You
no,
know.
you're cool, you're cool. All right, but I mean, regardless of that, though, congratulations to all of the teams that were able to make it, and a good best of 5 finish between T1 and RNG ended up being a banger of a series, as the cool kids say. And we'll head on to what's next, and that being these patches that have fundamentally changed the game. I think that's really the last topic that we wanted to bring up here. Last major topic is this durability patch, and then the 1211 patch, the ever so fun 1211 patch. That's going to be bringing in a lot more changes, and then very soon, we're going to be getting our next champion as well, Bel'Veth. First we got the durability updates. Now we've been getting some really good buffs in the bottom lane. There's Samira, there's Caitlyn, Aphelios that are all getting buffed. Tahm Kench is getting buffed. Rakan. Like, the meta is going to be so different, I think, in 1211 than it's been in a very long time.
I think it's needed because like you look at the way they did durability patch. I think it's great. 1210, we've seen a little bit longer fights. A lot of times people will be like, "Oh, it's only a couple more seconds," but that's a couple more seconds that something else can happen, kind of a thing. Or you look at now, this is why you're seeing all this 80 growth on Samira and that you're getting buffs to some 80 champions because of the fact that, unfortunately, they're just not really able to put out that damage that ideally they should be doing. Because again, some of these are burst champions, some of these are those attack speed ones that really need to get going. And if you can't get that going for yourself, we're able to say get a Lord Doms because you're having to deal with again someone very takey. We've been seeing the spicy Zac top coming back lately. We've seen just a couple other champions too, where it's just like even like Set. I was playing it and I'm like, wow, I'm able to go against like Kale last night, no problem. Where yeah, it's just like even at level 11, when she's about to shred me even more, like I feel like okay, I'm getting one shot immediately. Like it definitely, I definitely got one shot it, but it wasn't like something where okay, I'm gone in a blink of an eye. Like it was good like 10 seconds before I think I died. Where I'm like, okay, I feel at least comfortable in a better spot. But I also look at, I know ADs have been highly complaining about it.
For sure. And I think the durability patch is cool. Like, I think a bunch of assassins before were actually just overkilling champions. Like, especially squishies. Like you could like do like 500 damage more, and I think they were hit hard because they didn't want the game to be as bursty. But if you check the 12.11 patch, you're actually bringing back some buffs and some like stat increases to these assassin items like Eclipse, Prowler's Claw, Axiomark, Serpent's Fang. They're all getting lethality buffs. So it's almost like they're not fully reverting it, but they're kind of easing back all these changes with these systematic buffs that they're implementing in the 12.11 patch this Wednesday.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I mean, you because that's always the hard thing in League. I think it's balancing this game where people enjoy playing it. I think is part of the problem. And when can you balance it so then you're also not affecting um pro scene drastically at the same time too. So I feel like because they're in this like little lull period right before we get into LEC and LCS and all of them coming back. That's something that I mean I like lethality coming back. I don't like it because that means we'll probably see Zed and Akali and others come back a little bit more. But I mean you have to look at you got to cater to those people too. Like, and this is the only game that unfortunately comes back to like the ELO aspect. Like you actually have to definitely have divisions because there's just so many champions that only certain people play. Or like they only play a certain style. It's not like you play Valorant where okay, you can just grab whatever gun and you're good to go kind of a thing in different situations, or CS:GO, or Runeterra, you're just looking at your deck, just making it stacked. So the point is, okay, hey, if your team all just trying to get those shrooms out all the time, or are you trying to just get just the ball rolling with even like Zed and other champions, and Runeterra, it's just one of those ones that again, I mean, I look at League is always hard to balance, but I think they're trying to get themselves in the right direction. It's just I hope they don't repeal too much back.
Agree. I definitely like the changes from a player perspective for sure. What are your thoughts on the new champion that was um confirmed to be released, Bel'Veth? She looks like a jungler, right? Like jungler that's gonna build maybe Nash's Tooth, but I don't know. He could be like, or
Um,
she could be a mid laner as well.
so with my experience of playing her, I've tried a jungle. It's okay. Um, it takes a little bit to kind of get going. But you can do it. Um, I like it more as a mid personally, just because it's something that I feel she can work with a little bit better. Some people like it in support. I mean, I've seen it all over the place as we're testing it on PBE, but that's something that um, I mean, I've also just been enjoying TFTs as well, kind of a thing. So new TFT set is a banger right now. But um, yeah, I mean, the only thing I like is probably the fact that you can get really high attack speed with her, and we can get some dojo memes, coming in. But other than that, I feel like it's not quite there yet. I think some numbers need to change. Once those numbers change, we're fine. But I think that's the problem with this is, do you really want to overvamp this champion and then like destroy the game for like 2 weeks, or do you want to like kind of do what they did with Akshan, where you had him nerfed a lot in the beginning, and then 2 weeks later, okay, they gave him a bunch of buffs, and then he's like actually like a really good skillful champion.
For sure.
Yeah.
Moose, what are your thoughts? Oh,
Mouse,
I think Moose has
God,
this.
no, I'm here. I'm here. I'm sorry. I
you're
know
fine.
my buttery
I get
voice.
it.
No, I think the champion is just getting weirder and weirder, and I just can't get past the aesthetic
Why do they
of
have so
this.
many dashes though? Like she has 4 dashes, dude.
I mean, it's 222 collective years of content.
True.
I like. I will play the champion. I will make my opinions on her, but until then, like, she just looks like another one of those, kind of. I'm gonna gimmick it. I'm gonna try to, find a cool niche thing that Belveth can do, and like her mechanics from what I've seen just feel. I don't know. They're new, but it's just like, okay. I mean, I'm not excited. I'm not looking forward to a new champion, I guess. So maybe that's just me being me. Um, but
Yeah, that's fine. Like,
I mean, I'm excited to see how it plays out, and I'm just more excited to see what 12-11 brings to the table because it is going to be so new. But I think with that, I think about covers it. Um, it was a great time. I think being able to chat with you guys, Red coming in, being our special guest, talking about his experience, bringing in a lot of his knowledge to the table is definitely profound. Um, any other updates, anything like that? I mean, I know TA is putting in some work with their teams this week. Definitely check them out. Deity, are you playing next week?
I am playing next week. I am playing in Victorous. I think we're still in the group stage, and I think one I guess series you should watch out for is the loser bracket semifinals. Stratus is playing in PRL this upcoming week, so I'd highly recommend checking that out.
Nice, nice. I know Gigatron, you and we're gonna be casting a Thursday league, I think,
yes,
right?
yes, we are.
Yep,
The
we will be casting Aegis
uh,
Protectors League, APL.
protectors. Yep.
Yep, gonna be a ton of fun. Great to be able to cast with you. I always appreciate the fun that you bring to the table with it, and it's gonna be great. And of course, we're gonna have some casting here on TA. I think you and I are casting tomorrow, for TA Distortion in their Metashift League game, and Emma will be there as well. Shout out to Emma being our content manager and listening to us talk about.
Ramble on.
Yeah, I was the one rambling. You guys were all providing content. I was just being a fool. But I mean, this was a great time. Thank you guys all so much for listening. If you guys are, liking the content that you're seeing, if you guys are interested in any of the TA content that you guys are looking forward to, definitely follow the Twitter, follow and subscribe to the Twitch, and join the Discord if you haven't already to stay up to date on when and where your favorite TA teams and talent are going to be playing at. If you
And
guys
subscribe
are,
to the YouTube.
yep, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be putting out content for the summer leagues and for all of the teams that are coming out. If you can also donate to the Patreon if you're feeling somewhat generous. I can always use help money wise. I'll see $0 of it, but I'd like to think that I get something out of it. But yeah, no, I mean, without further ado, thank you guys all so much again for watching. Appreciate you guys all for being here. Be safe. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you guys all next time. Take care.
Bye.